life assurance was going to happen. That was this guarantee you get. Everyone gets all healthcare needs met, everyone in the world, and you know, whether you want massage or acupuncture or regular medical treatment or whatever, it's just your healthcare needs are met because there's this huge reserve of assets that are belong to humanity, and Kim has access to this on behalf of humanity and is trying to release these funds. And she'd go through great detail of how she was trying to release these funds and what was blocking it. And every week there would be a different part of the block that was removed, and every week they'd be a little closer. And several times, from what I remember, was mentioned we were really close. You know, life assurance is almost ready to release. We're just working on the codes and the numbers or whatever. And it was like, wow, that would be really amazing. That seemed like a safer bet to me than funding the assemblies, because giving people health care to benefit their health so they could be healthier. We could be healthier in our minds and our bodies, and then be better in a place to use other resources seemed wise. But that, of course, didn't happen either. Sorry, I don't mean of course, but it just didn't happen. Um, so so here's something that was, oh, and also at the time there was a big push on restoration of rights. In Oregon, there was orders were written to like reverse this uh, blocking of a dam that was, you can go back and look. I won't give all the details, but anyway, it was supposedly ratified. Kim supposedly ratified this into the Hall of Records, and the GIA was going to enforce it. Um, and it was going to really help. As soon as this was done effectively, this would make way for everyone to be able to write orders, basically to make the cabal stop doing what they were doing. So the whole thing was we're supposed to be able as an assembly to write these orders in a specific way that the GIA would then enforce, and the enforcer would enforce. Sorry, I'm saying with a smile because to me now it's ridiculous, but at the time I really put a lot of time and energy into it. And you know, this would really change the world. It would restore people's rights, you know, and we would be able to clean everything up. And gosh, there was this other push too to gather all the names and phone numbers and addresses of all the officials in your county and town and state, of everyone who's mandating masks and the shot. And the GIA was going to issue cease and desist, something along these lines, basically to make them stop, right? So people put hours and hours and hours into gathering these huge lists and sending them to the GIA. And there was all these trainings that popped up that people are helping each other to learn how to do this. We never really did it in Maine because it was just too boring. And I kind of at that point was thinking, I don't know if that's really going to happen. That doesn't like good use of time. But many people put a lot of time into that, and that didn't happen as well. To be fair, I think Kim actually might not have been in favor of that. That might have just come from Tank. But whatever, it didn't happen. It was a tremendous amount of energy and resources going into something that again didn't happen. And I was starting to be like, wow, Kim was so good at saying how these things in Q just never happen and these white hat things never happen. But everything she's saying that's physical or tangible is just not happening. I just thought that was interesting at the very least, and disturbing. Another thing that happened at that point is at one point Kim was talking about you know, the Kim system is now in effect for the banking system. She was very good explaining this, the banking system and the cabal and stuff, and it, you know, made sense as far as I could tell. It was the best story I heard as far as what's really happening in the world. And so she said, now when you go to the bank, instead of having this other system, I don't know what the name was, it's the Kim system. And I called up one of my friends in one of the Western assemblies. Like, yeah, I went to the bank and they showed me it said the Kim system. I was like, oh my goodness, physical manifestation of something Kim is doing. This is amazing. I went to my bank right away and I was like, do you guys have, you know, in your system, whatever it's called, does it now say the Kim system? They're like, oh, not that I know of. And they were very kind about it. They checked, they looked on the computer and they looked for a bit. Like, no, it still says this other thing. And I was like, all right, well, thanks for checking. And I was like, well, we use a small local credit union. Maybe the bigger banks have it. So I called several of the larger banks in our area and I asked them all, and they're all very kind and they all checked into it. And they're all like, no. And I was like, huh, no. Well, I mean, all right, well, I guess we'll just keep going. All right. So anyway, we keep going and I'm feeling a little bit more like, oh, this is weird. And then this was a big, this was one of the yuckiest things that had happened. Is this one day Kim just announced the PGSD is dissolved because obviously it didn't work. And I've been on the phone with General Milley and blah, 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 and all these other things, just in an announcement as a matter of fact, when there's like several, like many people around the world putting tremendous hours in and being told, by the way, from the director that when, which I think he believed, I don't think this, I think he was told this as well, that Kim had said, we release funding, those people that are working the hardest, have really been producing, they are going to get paid first. You know, so there's people that were, and this is their own choice. It's not, you know, we all have our own choices here. I was choosing as well, who were putting aside working for money for their family to put more into this because it was really helping the world. And soon they were going to be able to help support their families through this amazing work in the world. And I just think that's wrong. I don't think there's another way to say that unless, even if it's true, all these things that Kim said, there are all these blocks and funding couldn't happen, to have been at least extremely apologetic about that. Like, I'm so sorry, I haven't delivered yet or haven't been able to because of this. You know, it's just when the PGSD was dissolved, it was just an announcement that it was dissolved because it didn't work. Kim never came to a meeting. I reached out to her personally to ask if I could just share with her my experience in the PGSD, what that was like, and I had some questions about why it was ended that way. It didn't go anywhere. I got um, an answer from one person that worked with her closely that basically, oh, I'm sorry, there was a seed planted a week before. The director had said, Kim told me, I just want you guys to know that she's going to do something soon that seems like it's going to really take the power out of the assemblies completely. And it's going to be strange, but just trust me. It's going to, something I need to do, and it's about safety. So we're like, okay, that's weird, but all right, that sounds strange, but all right, let's. So then when it was dissolved, I was like, okay, that must be the thing. So that was the story. It was about safety. It was so close. The assemblies were getting so close and so powerful that you know, the three-letter agencies were starting to watch them, and it wasn't safe for them to really do that anymore. They were going to, people were going to come after the people in the assemblies. I was like, whoa, that's intense. But I don't think that's true. I mean, geez, it's just not. I just don't think that's true. I think one of the things I see in retrospect is if you have this story where your DNA is pure to a as pure to a human being as it could be, and you're chosen for this role, to me that sounds kind of like divine right of kings. You know what I mean? It's like that's it's like that scene in Monty Python where he's like right, King Arthur's riding along, and the guy's like, "Who are you?" And he's like, "I'm King Arthur." And he's like, "Well, I didn't vote for you." And it's like, "Well, you don't vote for a king." He's like, "Well, how'd you get to be king?" And he's like, "You know, the Lady of the Lake gave me Excalibur." And he's like, "Just because some tot in the lake gives you a sword doesn't make you a king." And it's like, I'm sorry if that seems disrespectful, but it seems like the best analogy I can get. If you have this story where you like have this pure DNA and you have this role, right? And you're like on this intergalactic council or the universal council, you're talking to all these other beings all the time, and you're working with legions of angels and the enforcer and the archivist, you can make anything sound plausible. And maybe that stuff is true. And I'm not trying to tell people that it's flat out not true. If you believe it and you feel like, and it's bringing you good things in your life and your family, and you see the good things happening in the world for it, I'm not trying to talk people out of going with that. You should go with that. I think there's a lot of beautiful things in the movement and beautiful people in the movement. And I think that's how these things work. If they are, in fact, lies or based on delusions, which I think is quite likely the case, that it's primarily lies and or delusions, and there could be truth mixed in. Because I do think Kim is really exceptionally good at explaining things in a very clear and thoughtful way about the structure of the cabal and the deep state and how that all works. And I think she can be very insightful and articulate, but I also think you can use that to explain anything. And I just don't think it's great. So anyway, I just would have really appreciated personally, and many people on the PGS team would have appreciated personally, him just saying more about, oh, gosh, we know how hard you worked, you know, and or I'm sorry we had to do this, you know, and just something, you know what I mean? It was just really like, and I'd seen that happen before. People are just kind of out or kicked out or leaved or banned from the chats, and it's just not really a lot of explanation as to why, and so it's not very thoughtful, to say the least. It seems like one of the things I really appreciate in leadership, and I try my best at and don't do a great job all the time for sure, is to be empathetic and to be vulnerable, um, and to have humility. Those things I think make for great leadership qualities. And that's something too, as I look back, I just never felt that very strongly. But I thought, well, if there's a real lack in people skills here, and if this position is really being held, then we need to just help out more. Let's not get caught up more in the negative. Let's just try to be positive. So I just kept trying to be positive and move forward. And I reassured so many people after this dissolving of the PGSD, trust Kim still, let's go with, let's keep doing what we can. And I was questioning it so much, but I just thought we should just keep moving forward. So I did move forward for a bit longer myself. Helped out in the beginning of the field messengers, the latest thing with UNN, and that again was really inspiring and amazing. All these people from around the world sharing their stories, and it's just always inspired and touched by the people giving from their hearts. And then always looking back and being like, why hasn't it just, why haven't these things come to be, So, and also I just want to say, I'm not on the chats at all anymore. I don't plan to be, but I heard the story of like Kim saying that Lisa was picked up at the airport and made by the NSA and made to be involved with Team Bubba, and that's just so silly. I mean, I do know Lisa, and I heard about her experiences before Kim came up with this story, and that's really a lie. I mean, it just is. It's just a silly, weird lie. So there's no other way to account for these things that I can see. And I might be quite wrong about a lot of these things. I just know that at the time too, when people did question the PGSD, hey, what's going on? Why this? Why that? They weren't received well. When people question things directly, often I'd say you just need to help more, or they're chastised, or shamed, or kicked out, or some combination. So I didn't want to put myself in that position. I just wanted to watch and see what happened and try to be helpful some more. But it was really, yeah, as I look back, I'm like, oh man, I feel like I, I wasted a lot of time myself where I could have been maybe just spending more time with my family, doing more things in my local community to really help. Uh, that would have been much more effective and tangible. I still think to this day, one of the most effective things I can do is to take a deep breath. I mean, that's profound. That's really simple and really profound. To be kind to my children and my wife, which I honestly am not always. I have my own snags, and part of my involvement actually in all that stuff really left me with less energy for that. I was staying up in the night to review website. I was putting in a lot of time, and happy to do it. Freaking, I was changing. Even our kids. Oh my gosh! Remember one time our youngest kid being like, "It's okay, Papa. I know this is helping even the kids in Africa," because we just tell them these stories, about how it's helping to take down the cabal and restructure things, and so many people are going to be helped. It's okay if we don't have time to do that today. I mean, that's touching and sad. It's and it's okay. I want to be clear. I'm not a victim in this. I chose this, and I have my own life, and I'm very grateful to have had the experience and to connect with so many people. But yeah, one other thing I'll say too is a lot of the reason why I believed a lot of what Kim says, because I actually think much of it is true, like spiritually and energetically, so to speak. Like Kim talking about having this system, the quantum system she has. I actually don't think that's true at all. But I think it's true on a deeper level because I think we all have a quantum system. I think this is the quantum system, and we are really amazing. Kim is no more or less amazing than anyone else, and I don't honestly believe she has access to any system. And if she does, I don't think it's very effective. But I think that one of these reasons these stories are believable is because med beds, quantum systems, quantum machines, these things are amazing. They're amazing external tools that could be helpful to us, but they're just tools that activate our own healing, our own capacity, our own consciousness, which is far more amazing than any tool or technique or technology or extraterrestrial being or like a force or a galactic whatever. Those things could be impressive, but spirit guides and angels and all that stuff, they're just beings like us, and they just have a different form. It's not a big deal. But one of these reasons these stories are so believable is because I do think this is a pretty beautiful, special, monumental time in the evolution of the consciousness of humanity and of the history of humanity. And I do think a lot of the things that Kim shared are really amazing and really do tie into being true in some ways. But I think it's more helpful to me to just recognize that I'm amazing. I mean, not in a grandiose way, but just because I am, because we all are. And so I would just love to encourage people to just question deeply and with their hearts, and to just go by what you feel is really good, beautiful, and right, and high vibration. Because that's one of the things too. I look back, I'm like, a lot of the things, and the UNN too. Oh yeah, I got involved in the field messengers in the beginning. I was so excited. They wanted to make it really focused on positive things and on the field messengers around the world. And there was a lot of beautiful work, but there's a lot of reporting still on what the deep state is still supposed to be doing. And quite frankly, I think that's really boring. I mean, I just not interested in that. It's once you know the general picture of the deep state or whatever it is, it's like, okay, that's what they've done, that's what they're doing. There's other things to focus on. So one of the things I think is hard for people to see is I'm grateful that I stay connected to some of the people in the PGSD, some of the people in the assembly in the box, people who were around before that. And my wife did work with another woman in UNN before this, and then with the next, movement in UNN with these other people. And we stayed in touch with all these people, and to hear all their stories, be like, oh wow. And an interesting thing too is many of these people still are upset with other people in the movement, thinking it was because of them, and they don't. It's hard to explain, but I don't think any of these people were bad or evil or infiltrators. I did think that at times. I'm really sorry about that for perpetuating that myself. I did things that I'm not proud of as far as infiltrate. I thought there were infiltrators in our assembly. It's just ridiculous. They were just guys like me, and they just had a different perspective. They weren't infiltrators. But we're really hyped up thinking, oh, the three-letter agencies are infiltrating, and there was all this talk about infiltrators, and I kind of think that's a joke. I don't think anyone's trying to infiltrate what Kim is doing, because I don't think it has a lot of impact in the way that she says it does anyway. So these things happen, these major upheavals happen every 6 months or a year and a half. And so afterwards, it's like, oh, everything's going to be different now. This person is gone. They were really holding us back, and now we're going to do things in this different way. And threads change and things change, and it's hard to see all the history of like everything that Kim has been involved in. And I'm not big on research, but I've talked to a lot of people who have research, and there's many of the people Kim have been involved in supposedly are pretty shady and have been involved in a lot of frauds and scams. And if you just research that for yourself, you could probably find that out. I didn't take to do that. So just do it for yourself if you want to. But it's hard to see the history because it changes so often. And many of the people who have left too are just, they don't want anything to do with it anymore. They've moved on with their lives, which is totally understandable. And I think would be not having much to do with it myself. I just feel like it was important to share this, because I thought there could be people who would hear this and benefit from it. And I hope so. I hope. And again, if you do support Kim and you love what she's doing and you love what you're doing about that, I'm not intending to take you away or to try to make you confused or whatever. Just, we all can believe whatever we want to believe, of course, and do whatever we're going to do. So anyway, thank you. I hope this was helpful. And yeah, just keep doing good things. All right.